Здравствуйте, дорогие участники. Надеюсь, меня хорошо
Good
слышно.
afternoon, distinguished participants. I hope you can hear me well. Welcome to our fourth event in the series of Women in Business. We are happy to greet you. Our activities are focused to combat the consequences of the pandemic by looking for opportunities for financial institutions and how we can become real partner for small and medium-sized businesses that are headed by women managers. And before I give floor to our guests, let me introduce them. And then I will tell you a little bit how to use the interpretation function, and the slides will be in Russian. Now we have our guests. Karat Chalapai, who is our Frankfurt School of Business, the chief expert on SME, and also our consultant on gender issues of Bank MP. And now a little bit of the logistical issues. Our event will be held in two languages, in English and in Russian. And so that you can choose your language, please use the interpretation button. And it's at the same line where you have your camera and microphone. And please choose the channel that you would like to listen to. And the slides are available in Russian, but you can always have a look in English and in Russian. It will be in English, but you can use it in the Russian also. In the menu panel, please choose the view, and there will be an option of the translated presentation, and you can look through them in Russian. And we'll be very happy to receive your questions. So that you could send them to me, please select in the chat the moderator and send the questions directly to the moderator. And at the end of the presentation, I will read them out and Sima will answer them. Okay, now I'm very happy to give the floor to Karat Chalabai. Karat, the floor is yours. Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished participants. I am greeting you on behalf of our project Women in Business, on behalf of EBRD and our donors at our fourth roundtable. And I can see many familiar faces among the participants. I'm very happy you are able to participate. This is our fourth roundtable. And as you know, the pandemic is still going on, and we have adapted our work. We have transformed our work to continue our activities and to continue the support to women entrepreneurs. The project Women in Business provides consultations to women in business, those who are doing entrepreneurship activities, and provide technical support to financial institutions who are partners of our project microfinance associations and also banks. This is our fourth roundtable. And the objective of these roundtables to tell you about the international best practices, to give you some ideas about the opportunities, the practices that are used by other banks and financial institutions in order to improve services for our entrepreneurs women, so that our financial partners could use these best practices to better provide the services, to better service women clients, to develop business together with clients. This is our fourth roundtable. This is also focused on such an interesting topic as products development. At the beginning, we talked in general about what are the approaches available, what are the ways to better service women entrepreneurs by banks and financial institutions. And we have talked about risk management during the pandemic. We have talked about non-financial services, and today we'll talk about the products development. And our speaker today is Sinla Unal. And She is a banker with a great long experience. Now she works in BNP Paribas, and she used to work as a consultant, and she also has her experience to work with the commercial banks. So I think this presentation will be very interesting. Of course, we're not able to cover all the aspects, but our objective is to unleash some opportunities to tell you about the prospects, because any crisis is a period also for some self-development and self-improvement. And we hope that these short webinars will be useful for our bank partners, for our microfinance organizations, so that something they can use and improve their services and products, and provide better access to financing to entrepreneurs, women. I would like to wish you to have a productive time with us at our roundtable, and I request you to ask active questions, and at the end we'll have a time for questions and answers. I won't take much of your time. I think our main speaker is Sinla Unal, and I'm sure she has a lot of information to share with us. Thank you very much. Have a good webinar today. Kairat, thank you very much. Thank you for your welcoming remarks. And now, this is my great pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Sinla Unal, and she will tell you about the methodology of design thinking and how to do it so that clients fall in love with your products. This is always a relevant topic. Simla, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Annelia. And good afternoon, everyone. Such a pleasure to be with you again. It's been a couple of months when we started the first roundtables, and this is the fourth time. So I'm happy to be back and sharing a different topic, quite a different topic than we have discussed before, but it's a very relevant topic. It was before COVID, it was relevant, but I think with the COVID situation, now it became more relevant because everything that we do is for the customers. So that's why it's good to know how they act, how they behave, what they want. So our topic will be focusing on how we can design best-in-class solutions, be it products, services, or processes, so they can be happy about it, they can get engaged, they can get more familiar, and they can use them. So we can build a great relation with our customers. So I will start sharing my screen now. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, so excuse me. You can clearly see my screen. Can you confirm? So I start. Okay. So today our agenda will mostly focus on 5 topics. So we will start first talking about what is the traditional way of designing products. Then we'll jump on design thinking. What is it? Is there a relevant process to follow? And what are the best examples in the world that might be interesting to see from different sectors? And I will be happy to get your questions at the end so we can have a clear conversation together. So, do you remember your first love? I know it's a big, bizarre question maybe to start any kind of in a topic conversation training, but I can assure you that it will make sense at the end. Well, when we say love, of course, it doesn't have to be towards a different gender. So it can be for a man, for a woman, it can be towards a book, it can be towards your first dog, your pet, the flowers, anything that is interesting to you. So anything that makes you fall in love, think about it all the time, feel good when you're close by, you cannot forget, you like to spend time with. Why do we fall in love? According to many research done until now, there are different reasons: chemical reasons, behavioral reasons, social reasons. But a few things which maybe we can keep in mind about why we fall in love is very much explained in this slide. The top 3 reasons why we fall in love is about, like, first, similarity. We love and we fall in love, and of course in this slide I'm mostly talking about love for a different gender, for a man or for a woman. We fall in love because of the similarity of beliefs. So with the person that we fall in love, we share common or similar personality traits, similar ways of thinking. The way we approach life, the way we see the world is more or less the same. Second reason is propinquity, which means more or less like familiarity with the other, spending time together, living near each other, thinking about the other, anticipating the interaction with the other. So how we can spend more time to get to know each other. The third one is desirable characteristic. I mean, the outer physical appearance. Okay, we know that beauty is inside, but when we look at something, be it a person, be it a material, be it a book, be it flowers, whatever you see, it first appears attractive to your eyes. So outer physical appearance is very key to fall in love. It's to make the other side desirable to our eyes. So what is the relation then? Well, the relation is design thinking. If we do it the right way, helps financial institutions, banks, MFIs, any kind of company. It doesn't have to be only in the financial sector. It helps us to make our clients fall in love with us because it's truly based on true human stories. Before going more in detail about the design thinking process and what it is, maybe just a reminder about how we design products in the traditional sense. Of course, again, this is not only unique for the financial sector, it's more in general. So let me remind you the waterfall approach, one of the approaches that is applied when designing processes, products or services. Waterfall approach is a process where everything is sequential. So we start first analyzing the situation. We do deep analysis about researches, desktop researches, market researches, but we know what we are talking about. Once we have the entire information about what we need to do, then we go on the design process, design step. Here, we know how to design, what to do, how it would look like, the look and feel of the product, who it will be targeting, how it will work, what type of features it will have, the technical infrastructure, the marketing solutions, how much, of course, the business case attached to it coming from the analysis process. So we know what we are going to be designing. After we know about the product, then we go on how to implement it. This of course includes the development stage. So it's long. It takes, so everything that we design, we document it well. Of course, the design process requires a lot of documentation. Then we jump on the implementation process with heavy involvement of the IT and the developer team. Once everything is finished, once we have the product, we launch it. So everything is ready. We have a tangible product. We can put it on our website. We can go on TV commercials, and we try to go on the market, let people know about it, and we begin to sell. And then at this stage, of course, it's the testing period, actually. So once the product is out, once it's launched, then the testing period starts. Then people get to know the product. They buy it, they use it, they get an experience about it, and they see if they like it or not. If they like it, well, it's good. If not, maybe eventually we may end up with ending the product. So this is more or less the waterfall approach, which is, of course, a good approach depending on what you want to get, depending on your project. If it's really well clear, well defined, you don't need to change anything in your project from the beginning to the end, then it works perfectly. But there are some, of course, shortcomings of this approach too. First of all, it's a very long and expensive project. It's long, and I'm sure you all remember, like, until very recently, product development was like taking 1 year, 2 years. Once we have the idea until we come to the market, it was taking like 2 years because it required a lot of development, especially on the IT technical infrastructure. And we were thinking about if we say this word, that color, that button. So we were planning everything in detail without thinking if this will be necessary for the end user. So it's long, it's a very long process. But once the product was in the market, maybe the need was not there anymore. So it may not be very successful at the end. For that reason, of course, since it required a lot of investment in terms of budget-wise, human-wise, it's a very expensive process. And I think we can all agree that it is not a very customer-centric approach, because until the testing period, until the product is out in the market, we don't even think about the customer, what that person wants, if that product is desirable for her, for him. So it cannot be said it's very customer centric. And of course, since everything is very much in sequence, there is no room for iterations. Iterations means if something is not working, we don't go back to the previous stages to find the reasons why it's not working. We just try to perfectionize the product, but we just don't go ideating. The room for iterations is quite limited. Requires heavy documentation. You need to imagine everything and put it on paper. Without having a perfect documentation, you don't go to the next stage. And in that sense, of course, it's not very agile. And it may lead up to, because it's long and expensive process, and if the product is not very well appreciated, then it may lead to a waste of a lot of resources, as you could imagine. So necessarily, I'm not saying waterfall approach is not a right approach. It is a right approach if you are really sure about what you're going to do, if it will never change, and everyone knows what needs to be done, then it works perfectly. But if it's more about ideation, you are coming up from scratch and you want to design something that never exists, then it may not be the right approach. What might be the right approach? Maybe design thinking. Before going to the further steps of the design thinking, I think it's better to give you a bit of background about what it is. So it is actually a pure method for innovation and its management, and it is a combination between analytical and intuitive thinking. Of course, it's based on a process, but it's a process of co-creativity. It's not only one team's job, but everyone is involved. And what is involved is the customer, the end user, the prospect, the target users are involved by taking their feedbacks throughout the entire process, so we can learn, we can build on what we hear. For that reason, the feedbacks from the end users of the product or the service are very critical, and one of the main differentiator from the waterfall approach, from the traditional approach. The design thinking process started in the US around 1950s in Silicon Valley. It started as a real design process for like architectural world, for designing world. It was nothing about innovation or business management, and nothing in the combination of the two. But the professors at Stanford University in the 80s, they were inspired by this process, and they decided to apply this approach, designing approach, in the management of innovation. Since in the designing processes, designing furnitures, buildings, the needs of the user, how they interact with the product is critical. They were inspired with this approach, and they said, why don't we apply the same thing for everything we do? That's how the story started. So between 1980s, of course, it evolved, and Tim Brown seems to be one of the founding fathers of this philosophy. It is now, it's much more advanced. You can see it everywhere. You can read a lot of books about it. And it ended up like involvement. It was at the beginning like 7 steps on how we can build design products thinking about our customers. By involvement, now it's 5 to 3 steps, but mostly today we're going to talk about the 5 steps. So design thinking is the management of innovation, and it's a set of intertwining, iterating ideas. So it's not a linear process as the waterfall approach. It involves a lot of iterations, and it goes from back and forth until we find the right solution that works for the end user. I hope by design thinking now you have a better idea about how it started, what is the background. And now we will proceed with what it is and how we can do it. As you can, we all know, brainstorming sessions are mostly based on post-its, right? When we are doing some kind of ideation processes, when we are doing brainstorming sessions, what we use is mostly a whiteboard, a blackboard, and we love posting our ideas on it. We combine with different colors and Sharpies and pens. Yes, it helps a lot. It helps us to get inspired to find new ideas for what we are looking for. But design thinking is much more than just post-its. It's not only putting the ideas on the table and bringing them together and find a solution. It includes that step, but it's not only based on post-its. And it's also not only about technology. We may think that design requires technology, a lot of technological infrastructure, which is correct. But again, it is not purely based on technology. Otherwise, we will be living in a world of machines, robots, and just equipment, and everything would be functioning perfectly, which we know is not possible. So design thinking is not only based on a technological product that works, but it starts from as Steve Jobs says, it starts from the customer itself. Based on what we hear from the customer, what we learn, what he likes, what she likes, then we build the technology, the relevant technological solution, the technological product that will match this need. So it's also about technology, but technology plays a huge role in the success of design thinking. And it's purely so much more than design. When I explain about design thinking, I think this is my favorite slide because it perfectly explains what it really is. As you can see, if you don't take the customer into the center, in the center of your design process, you spend a lot of time and money calculating how the road will be. You design it, you draw the lines, you do the relevant architectural and engineering actions. You, on paper, I'm sure the garden looks nice, the park, the area. However, well, for that gentleman, I think it's a very long run. He wants to go to his office, to his apartment in a very short time. So he finds his way. So perfectly designed on the street and on the paper, but he will never go around the corner. He will always take the shortcut and he will make his life easier. So the design thinking is really this. So you may spend a lot of time, money, and planning, but at the end of the day, if it's not based on what the user will be attracted for, then the money and the time may have been wasted. So what is it then? Well, design thinking is the optimum point that will create a real impact for the user. This is a very famous diagram when we talk about innovation. So innovation is about people, business, and technology. As I said, it is none of any of it. It's a combination, and it's a great combination to find the optimum point, which is the middle part of this. As you can see, if we combine people, what people want, with feasible technology, we can find a functional innovation, something that works for the people. However, is it viable on a business sense? Well, we don't know. It doesn't look like so. If we combine this time the business viability with technology, what we get? Well, we get a process innovation, which is great, which may be working, but where is the people? Do the people like it? We don't know. If we combine this time people's wishes with viable business, well, this is good also. but it's more about emotional innovation. So it's good for branding, for marketing, and building relationships. But where is the technology? Maybe we need a technology that we haven't talked about. So it might be not technologically feasible. So the idea is to combine people's desirability with a viable business opportunity, which will be also technologically feasible. When we combine the three of this, we get the sweet spot. So the black area that you see as a combination of the three is the experience innovation. That's the thing that will work for creating a real impact for the user, for the end user. And this is the essence of design thinking. If we would like to put a one sentence, I think this will be the best point to explain it. Of course, this optimum point, it rests on a process. We don't do design thinking just to create ideas, just to think about people, just to find the right technical solutions. It's a concrete process. It's very well designed, and it rests on a process. And this year, I used the Stanford Design School design thinking process, and it's built on 5 steps. First step is the empathizing phase, where we think about, try to see what is happening. We try to understand the end user. From now on, what we are always going to be talking about is too much dependent on the customer. When I say customer, of course, it could be the prospect. It doesn't have to be the existing customer. It can be the target user, your prospects, your existing customer. But finally, the end user. It can be your internal staff, or it can be your customers. It can be your partners, whoever you are targeting. So the first step of design thinking is understanding this target group. Who are they? By being non-judgmental, we try to see and understand who these people are. The second phase is the defining phase. So once we understand the ecosystem that they are living in, what they say, what they feel, what they think, then we try to be much more concrete, and we try to relate them to personas. We try to make some decisions, but we're still not designing the product itself. We try to understand these people in depth, about their pain points, about their wishes, about their expectations. Once this is completed, we go on the ideation process, and we try to ideate as much as possible. Once we have so many ideas, of course, we choose the best ones, and then we go on the prototyping phase to have something tangible, a basic product, like pre-product, as we can say it. And then once we have it, we go and test with the user. Remember the previous slides where waterfall approach, actually the testing period, of course there was a testing period, but that testing period was at the end of everything where the product was launched already. After we call it, it's actually, the product is live, but it's called testing. However, in design thinking process, the testing period is the period where the product is still not there. It's not produced, it's not developed yet. We have a very early phase of the product, which we call minimum viable product, MVP, the product that will work with the minimum features, but that will be still very attractive to the user. So we test this MVP before we launch it. So the testing period is the period that involves the customer, and we still don't have the developed product. So these 5 steps of design thinking is the entire process that we're going to talk about today. Before we go to that step, I'd like to mention and remind you some basic principles. We start with empathy. Of course, there is no order here, so I just put them all together, and all these principles have important importance while we are doing design thinking. And empathy is, I think, one of the key principles, because it's all about thinking about the others. In the traditional way of product development, well, going back to all my career, like as bankers, of course, we were experts of different topics. We come together when we design products, people from the marketing, sales, IT, compliance, legal, I mean, I was lucky because we were designing products like this all the time. It was not only the product development team who was coming with ideas and designing itself. We were more transformal, multidisciplinary and transversal. But at the end of it, we were all bankers when we were trying to ideate on behalf of our customers, thinking that, okay, they would like this, they would want this, they will not like this. This is good. This is quite good, but it still lacks the end user, because at the end of the day, as bankers, maybe we are not the ones who are targeted as the target of this product, right? So we may not know how the customer, the end user, will be feeling when they see this product, when they have an experience with that product. For that reason, empathy is one of the key principles where we need to keep in mind when designing products and sensitive, what the end user will say, will think, will feel, if they will like it. What is the pain point behind their complaints, behind their unhappiness? And this also is relevant for the financial sector also, not only for more retail or design related sectors. Once we have the empathy, of course, coming from the creation, like creativity, inspiration, are key, because since we are working on a very iterative process, which is not linear, of course, getting inspired with what's happening outside, being as creative as possible, going out of our own boxes, getting out of our minds, trying to see what is existing in other sectors, in other activities, similar activities, or totally extreme activities, to get inspired how we can maybe think about adapting certain parts of any products to our new products, to our new services, being inspired, being immersed into a world of different solutions are also very important. So here, design thinking process is of course coming from the customer needs, but it's also very much in line with how the outer world is going around us. So we should be opening our eyes, our minds, our brains and hearts to see what's happening outside our actual business, how we can try to see and adapt the best practices that are already working for the end users. Once we have so many ideas, of course, iteration. So we ideate, and then after we try to turn it into a simple solution. But once we see certain parts, certain notions are not working, how we can iterate, how we can go back one step, 2 steps, maybe 5 steps, maybe to the very beginning of the whole entire process, and we iterate. We start to see, we try to see what is working, what is not working, what did we miss, what didn't we hear, what didn't we try, and how we can this time add this missing part and close the gap. So iteration is also very key. Of course, this requires a lot of agility. So we have to agility is not only being fast, it requires, of course, a speed, but it's not based on speed. It's about how we can adapt to changing circumstances. While we are still working on a process and moving, how we can adapt the changes on the already going process by not stopping and building from again and again. So agility is critical here. Of course, I said I was lucky to work in cross-functional teams, and I really saw the benefits of it for really well-functioning products and services. When having an idea based on design thinking, of course, it is better to include everyone that might be relevant for the design, that might be impacting the solution, that might be impacted by the solution. Everyone has different ideas, and everyone's ideas plus the expertise will be very influential, will be very beneficial for the success of the solution. For that reason, cross-functional teams, when designing products and solutions, I think is one of the key success factors for a continuous and for a very smooth process while designing the products. Of course, this requires different usage of different tools, methodologies, techniques, methods, and there is no one fits for all solution when we want to choose tools, because the beauty of design thinking is that it uses a lot of different techniques, different templates in order to help us at each step of this journey, in the 5 steps of this journey. So when you go out, look for on the Google and everywhere, you can find tremendous number of tools, and you can easily pick what will work for you the best. So there is, again, I'm saying one fits for all solution does not work when designing the process, but while designing the process also. And I think the last 2 would be testing and prototyping. I keep mentioning the importance of it because I totally value how we can really stop wasting time, energy, effort, and money while we are designing products, services, and processes. We don't have a penny to lose. For that reason, we need to be agile, smart, creative in order to find the best solution. But before launching the product itself, we should be really testing it well, just to see what we had in mind, what we have in mind is working or will be working. Because at the end of it, everything on paper, on the documentation, may look perfect. It looks like there are no mistakes, it works perfectly. But when we test it, maybe the IT infrastructure is not enough. Maybe the internet infrastructure is not enough in the country, or in some parts of the country, it will not be working. So we may not take into account all the possibilities in the market. For that reason, testing with a prototype that is very similar to the final product will be very, very, very helpful. And this prototyping, of course, it doesn't have to be too much perfect. Anything that is tangible, that is relevant to get the ideas from the users will be just enough for us. And the last part is failing. I know we don't like this word a lot. When we want to create a new idea, a new solution, we don't want anything to fail, which is normal, which is very human. However, in the design thinking process and in the lean startup process, at all these agile methodologies, what we know that if we need to fail, and if we are going to fail, we need to fail fast. We need to fail fast so we don't spend too much time and money and effort. For that reason, testing period is very key, because if we're going to fail, at the end, failing means we create something that will not work for the customer. So we learn this at the very early phase in the testing period. So we fail and we fail, and then we learn, then we go and iterate so we can find the best solution that will work for the end user. So I think we made a good start to build the scene about how the traditional way of designing product is and was. So what is this design thinking? Is it a myth? Is it real? Does it work for the financial sector? And what might be the basic steps, and what might be the basic principles that we need to keep in mind to have a very successful product or process at the end. So now we will go a bit in the depth of the 5 steps that will create a real impact. And before we going further, I'd like to remind you that, of course, design thinking is a huge topic. So today we are going to discuss about it in 1 hour. So my objective is to give you a taste about it, what it is in general, what are the basic topics that we need to keep in mind if we need to go further. For that reason, of course, again, I will mention some of the steps, some of the templates, some of the solutions that we can see. But of course, this is a huge pool of information, experience. So please don't think that everything is this. So if you will be more interested, there is a huge pool of information out everywhere. So we start with the process. The 5 steps, of course, starts with a pre-process, which is the starting with a problem and ambition. If we don't have any problem, if we don't have any assumption, then there is no point to create any solution. So we need to be triggered. Either we think as the bankers, for example, I'm working in the marketing team, so I see that certain things are not functioning well. We receive a lot of complaints from the colleagues about some products or are not working, or they do not have enough capabilities to go to the market, or we receive a lot of customer feedbacks, negative ones, complaints on our social media accounts, in the branches and everywhere. So something is triggering it. So we feel it. Or it may come from of course, top management. They may say, okay, in the next 2 years, I want to do this as a CEO, may say that. We want to focus on more digital. We want to focus on more SME related products. I want to tap into a new segment. So let's do something about it. That will be interesting. So the reason why you need to do something may come from different orientations. But everything starts with a problem. And of course, we do not create things for the sake of creativity. So as bankers, as like financial institutions, we need to be creative based on an objective. And our objective will always start with a problem, an ambition, or an opportunity. Let's call it this way, it's much better. And this opportunity will be for a specific target group of customers or prospects, and which will involve also some stakeholders when we are designing the process. So what is your problem? Asking this question is very important, because maybe you will share my ideas too. Most of the time, when we come to design something, to find a solution, or we say we have a problem, and we never ask this question, what is the problem? Or when we start asking the problem, we see that some people may have different definitions of the problem. Although we think that we all the team knows about the same problem, when we out loud this question, what is the problem that we want to solve, or what is the opportunity we want to discover more, people may have really different opinions about it. So my suggestion, before you start any design process, it's good to put everyone on the same page in terms of what they understand about the problem or the opportunity. Are we talking about the same thing? So that's why, for me, it's a pre-step. So once we ask this question, everybody around this design project will be having the same ambition, the same problem, the same definition of the problem. What might be the problems? For example, churn rates of your affluent customers are increasing. Or you think that the world is changing, the HR market is changing, and you want to hire young talents in the bank. And it's not only about, like, the problems are not always related with, of course, products or solutions. Anything in your company, in your institution, can be a problem. And coming from compliance, HR, operations, marketing, security, and design thinking can be applied to any of these topics. Okay, we have a problem, and we know that everybody around the table has the same understanding about the problem. Then the first step about design thinking is building empathy. How we can develop empathy to better understand the needs, the pain points, and the expectations of our end users. It's very key, as I have mentioned in the principles, because it requires a lot of effort. And if you don't have this empathy, the design thinking process will not work, because it's not about us. It's not about our previous experiences, our assumptions, our opinions about life. I might be my 25 years of experience in product design. I may have known a lot of things, but that doesn't guarantee that whatever I will be developing will work for the customer. For that reason, we need to get stripped of our own personal ideas and jump in the shoes of other people. Then those people are the ones who we target as the end user, so that we can easily understand their lives, their personal traits, what they want, what they need, with what are they struggling with, what are the biggest pain points. And then we can start building our ideas from that. There are different ways to do it. First, we can try and do what that person is doing. Second, we might watch and observe what they are doing, or we may simply ask and listen. An example, we have ATM machines where people withdraw money, right? As a bank, as the bank. But we receive a lot of complaints that the customers are not happy with the ATMs. They are not functioning perfectly. They are always creating problems. The machine is not full, and many other things. So we are giving the task of find a solution with these ATMs, or design the best ATMs that will work for the customer. So what we can do, first try and do. We go and as the normal, like the same customer, we can try to use that ATM. We put the card in, the debit card in, we try to press the buttons, we try to withdraw money, but then we just simply do, and we are not a customer of that bank, for example, then we can see what might be the frictions while we are trying to withdraw money. Are you waiting along? Did we wait along in the queue a long time? So the buttons are functioning well. It's summertime. There is a sun coming from behind, and you cannot see the screen. It's totally blurred, and so on. So what we do, we try and do the same thing as the customer would do, and we take notes. We try to note everything down, what the problems are, and how it make you feel about it at the end, how long it takes, what are the implications. Second, you just don't do anything. This time, you watch and observe. You watch, like in a day from 9 to 6, you take different parts of the city, you go to different ATMs, and you just observe as an observer what people are doing when they come to withdraw money, how long they wait, what are they doing, what are the body language they have while they're trying to see, and you just watch and observe and take notes as in the previous example. Or you just pick people and do interviews. You just ask them questions about their experience, about going to the ATM, trying to withdraw money, what they do, if they succeed or not, the feelings, the needs, all their experiences. And you just simply ask and listen. And again, you throughout these 3 different ways of building empathy, you are totally in the shoes of the customer. You just try to understand their needs, expectations, and pain points. One example to the interview is, if we need to go further, interview may sound very easy to do. It is easy, but it's not that easy because it requires a kind of preparation. You need to have this question in mind, what you want to have the answers for. You need to be prepared which questions will be the right ones, because you cannot do 5 hours interviews. You need to be very compact. It needs to be like 50 to 60 minutes maximum. So we will be keeping people's time. So we need to be very time-wise. We need to be not making them get bored of it. For that reason, excuse me, it shouldn't be longer than 1 hour. For that reason, you have to pick the best questions, and you need to know, you need to guarantee that you will get the answers for. Who to choose? The interviews needs to be done with the extremes and the mainstreams. So it's better to have a pool of different type of customers who might be let's say, the ones that will give you the best answers. The ones who are the extremes, maybe those ones who are mostly complaining all the time, always trying to find the negative part of any solution. So it's good to have them because they may give you a lot of ideas. Or you can go on the mainstreams, the positive ones, the average ones, and build a team, build a pool of it. But I would never suggest just to choose one of these groups. It's better to make a combination so you can really have a good representation of the market. While you are writing down all the possible questions you want to learn, you need to remove the redundant question and ask throughout all this interview phase. When you hear something, it's better to go deeper and ask the why questions. you know, the interviewer may tell you while you ask a question, well, I didn't like it. So you need to ask, well, what is the thing that you didn't like it? Why you didn't like it? If you ask 5 whys, it's usually said scientifically that you reach to the root causes of the problem. So it's better to ask why and why and why, and not only ask the yes and no questions, because with yes and no questions, the experience that you're going to have will be very limited, and you will not hear a lot of good sides or the bad sides of the experience. So it's better to ask open questions. Include the closed questions when it's necessary. Always asking about the feelings, how this solution made them feel when they pressed the ATM machine, the buttons. How was it when they waited in the long queue? Why didn't like to wait? What was the main reasons? And all this stuff. And always note down the language of the person, impressions, verbatims, and these verbatims are very important because it helps us to take it into the further steps. And once we hear, we can put it in an empathy map, as you can see here. This empathy map is just an example. What we hear from the interviews, we can put it here as about like what Jamie said. Jamie is planning to buy a TV. So why is he feeling like what are the feelings he have? Is he scared? Is he excited? And then what does he do in order to buy the TV? Goes on the website, checks the website. And then while doing it, what does he think? And then what he says. So this captures the knowledge about the user behaviors and attitudes. Once we hear, we can go deeper and try to come up with some more concrete ideas about his behaviors. And it can be while doing it, of course, in the design process, we can do with the people in the institution, with the marketing, sales, and product development, whoever is relevant to include in the team. And we do it at the beginning of the design process, after the user research, if you have a market research, or if you've done the interviews, and then you can easily put the empathy map to come with a much more relevant look and feel of the behaviors of the users. Then we go to the next step after building the empathy. We know that their environment, we understand their feelings and behaviors. Then we try to build a persona. And these personas are, of course, fictional characters, which are based on what we hear, but they represent different user types and helps us to keep us on track when we are designing the process, because this will be our target end user. And these personas will help us to synthesize the findings from the previous stage, will keep us always on focused. Throughout the entire steps, sometimes it takes a long time. Throughout all the discussions and workshops, when we begin to create ideas, we get really very creative and always try to jump on different solutions. But the idea is always to keep stuck on what the persona will tell you. So whenever you feel like you are distracted, you are going on to very different directions while designing a process, I always suggest go back to your persona and think and see if what you are trying to discuss is relevant with the expectations. And persona map is something that we use to make this the hearings, what we heard from the previous tips, to look like much more like a real person. So it can be easily remembered. And a persona map, something like this, it can be very helpful. So this template, you will see a real person. Let me give you a jump on the example. For example, Amina is one of a persona from an X bank. So we did the interviews, and while you do the interviews, you at the end of it, you mostly see common similarities for what people do, what they want, what they are struggling with. So you may think, okay, but there is only one person and there is 3 million people out there. How am I going to choose the right persona? You can trust that once you do these interviews, the market researches, you find some similarities, common traits, some common expectations, some common profiles. And of course, since you have the question, the problem at the very beginning of the stage, you have already a target in mind. So these interviews will just polish of the target group that you have in mind. So at the end of this empathize phase, you will really have a very clear understanding about the persona. So Amina is something like this. It's like she's 35 years old, lives in Almaty. She likes traveling. She studied trade. Has a family with 2 kids. She's working in a trade company in a big group. She's in the trade department, but not responsible for the clients, mostly for the banking operations part. The needs she wants to, once we interviewed with her, we heard that she wants to look very professional and she doesn't want to accelerate all the problems she have going to up to her managers. She wants to have her freedom to solve her problems while vis-a-vis with the banks. She wants to control all accounts, payments, and tasks, and wants to get updated information, especially about trade and regulations. However, she's struggling that in the company, she has so many interfaces and programs when working and doing the operations between the other teams and the bank. She has so many people to coordinate, inform about the changes in the trades and regulations. She's acting as a center of information. So many requests is coming from the bank when she wants to make a payment for imports, exports. Every day with emails, she's receiving a lot of requests from the banks. And of course, there's some technical issues with internet banking, and she's always in a firefighter mode. She's almost burned out. What instead she wants to have less interfaces, but which are more integrated, integration of internet banking with their internal interfaces, systems. She wants to get support, real-time information, and advice from the bank. She wants someone dedicated to give her whatever she wants, not only emails receiving from the bank. And of course, that requires a lot of expertise and speed from the bank side. And she needs to use user-friendly interfaces. So once you make some interviews, you can easily see that there's a person behind, and she has some wishes, some expectations, and pains. Once we have the information, we have the needs and the expectations and the persona, then we know that there are certain problems that we can solve. So we go on ideation. And ideation requires a lot of brainstorming together, of course, in this cross-functional team, but there is no one fits for all solution. For that reason, we have to generate as many ideas as possible, all the possibilities. There are no good ideas or bad ideas. We build on each other's ideas. So we always keep asking the question, how might we help Amina to get rid of this firefighter mood and work in a much more coordinated way so she can help her internal customers as well as the bank and the operations itself, for example. There are certain rules of the games where ideating. Of course, we need to always defer judgment. We need to create as many ideas as possible, and the wild ideas are the better ones. We need to hear and listen what the others are saying so we can build on their ideas. We need to stay focused on the topic. Ideation is good, but sometimes we are so much, we love it so much that we may really lose direction. Then we go, as I said, we go on the persona, we go on the problem, back on the problem that we are trying to solve, so we can keep focused, keep on track. Once conversation at a time, we need to take the time as personal sharings and group sharings while we are doing the ideation. Using visual boards are very helpful. Even a whiteboard will be good. So we can use a lot of post-it, different templates. So everybody, whatever everyone is saying is not only heard, is also on the screens, on the boards. So nothing is forgotten. We can easily keep visiting and discuss about the same ideas since we may be iterating. And we need to build as many as possible. If we go in 1 hour, like 60 to 100 ideas, this is good to produce. Yes, but if we have so many ideas, how are we going to pick the best spot? Well, implement an ideation prioritization map like this can be very helpful. This is just an example. We put all the ideas on such a table, template, where we can, one axis can be the implementation, in terms of like, is it difficult or easy to implement this idea? And how impactful it is for the customer. Is it very much impactful on the customer needs, on the persona, what the persona is saying, or is it very small? So once we position all the ideas that we have created, generated, we can easily see what will be our the area that we need to be focusing to produce the right solution for the customer. So of course, if this is an implementation versus impact template, then we can see we need to choose the ones that are easiest to implement on the banking side, but which will create the largest impact on the customer. So it will be the right top square of the template. So with this, we make a prioritization. So we don't focus, of course, all ideas are important. We may visit some ideas in the coming days of the etaps of the project, but we will just pick those 2 to 3 or 5 ideas that might be very much relevant for the end user once we launch them. And we build prototypes on these ideas, maybe 1 or 2. It's never 10 ideas. It is not that much efficient. Okay, focusing on 2 to 3 ideas maximum could be the best way. And then we build the prototyping. Here, UX, UI designers may also get in the picture, in the team, but not necessarily. If you have UX designers, it's best. But if not, then you can build a prototype even from paper. So prototyping, the important thing is it should be something that is tangible, that the end user can easily play with, can interact with, and so that that person can give you rapid feedback based on the experience that the person is having with interacting with the prototype. So if it's not working well, if the feeling that the customer, the tester is sharing is not good, then we can easily find some ways to go back to perfectionize what is not working. So the ugliest, the dirtiest prototype may also be very helpful, but I would never suggest to explain a prototype over a paper, over a dashboard, because the prototyping needs to be something that they can play with, they can touch, they can feel, so they can have an experience by themselves without you explaining them. And that takes us to the last stage, which is the testing part. Once you have the prototype, you go again with the users and you give them the prototype, explain it in a very short way, very high level way, never giving them all the things that they need to do, and let them play with it. Just like when you buy a new product, what do? You sometimes read the manual, or you just start simply using it and see how you can do it. This is the way that we can do testing. We just prepare very short and open-ended questions. Sometimes give tasks to them. For example, you can say you are in a website, you are showing them to your website. You can say, please subscribe to our product. Please apply for, make an application for a loan. So you just don't show them the way. You let them find the route by themselves, because this will give you the idea if it's easy for them to find the way themselves or not. Because everything should be very simple, very user-friendly. And if they are getting lost in the website, it means that there are certain things that you need to really redevelop. So these are the 5 steps plus the pre-step of the design thinking process. Usually design thinking is not taking a long time, and when you use the design thinking process and with the MVP, minimum viable approach, viable product approach, at the end of this 5 step, this is what you get: a working prototype for the end user that is confirmed by the testers is your minimum viable product. So it should be like coming out to the market with an MVP, developed MVP, should not be normally taking more than 6 months. This is the suggested period of time, and maybe 1 or 2 months in advance for all this design should be the maximum period. What are the global examples before we very quickly? So as I said, the design thinking process can be applied to any sector, any problem. And this is what PG, Procter & Gamble, did in 1990s. You may all maybe know there is a product line they called Oil of Olay. This is a cosmetics brand within BG. And Oil of Olay was struggling to survive in the early 90s. And they wanted to find a solution how to revamp, reboost the sales. So they wanted to find a solution for helping women to have healthier, youthful, and beautiful life rather than just using a skincare product. So PG conducted research with users, as we have discussed in the early stages. And with this different interviews and market research, they found out when people in their early 30s, they are using hand and body lotion on their faces rather than a product for the face. And their main concern is to keep the skin healthy. Nobody wants to get old. And they are using lotions 2-3 times a day. And they are really anxious about how the skin looks like. But the people, the women of 50s segment with 50s age, they want to keep the appearance youthful too. And they are worried about dry skin, age spots, and uneven skin. So based on these findings, instead of pushing a product to the market, PG designed the Total Effects Face Moisturizer, which was taking care of all the things that they heard. So in one product, they give 7 different features, always on focusing on not to get the skin, like say, meltdown, hydrating the skin, replenishing and brightening. And you just need to apply once a day, not like 2-3 times a day, and you will get a healthier and younger skin. So with this application of design thinking methodology, they really find a product that talks to the feelings and expectations of these women who are early 30s and the 50s. So the result, at the end of it, from Oil of Olay, which was struggling to survive, really increased the sales, and they saw a double-digit sales growth in the American market. Another experience is coming from Philips. I think we all have an idea when you look at the MRI machines, scanning machines. It is not a very nice experience for anyone, any age. So this machine where it's like a tunnel, you get like an oven, you get inside and there's a noise coming out like tor, 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 tor. It's dark and very claustrophobic for some people. So the experience is usually not very positive. And in 2001, of course, based on these complaints, Philips decided to work on these machines where they would create a better healthcare environment for patients who need to go to an MRI scanning. And of course, they choose different target groups, but they specifically want to focus on kids because it's a much more scary period, as you can imagine, for kids during that scanning periods. They are really very much scared in the machine because they found out by observing, making some observations with these kids. First, they were very scared. They don't know what is going to happen. They are by themselves. There are no parents around who can comfort them. And it was a nightmare process for the kids. And since they are very much anxious, they have to be given more injections of sedatives. They have to do multiple scanning rather than doing it once. So it is not a good experience to have this multiple scanning period, which is more scary for the kids. And also they are using a lot of sedatives on their bodies. And from the Philips side, of course, this was also, besides the customer bad experience, the cost also was a lot for a one-time shut-off scanning. So at the end of all these observations, they came out with this suite you see on the right side. It's called Ambient Experience Suite. It is a customizable solution. So you see in the middle, the scanning machine where it's open at the back. It is not a big tunnel. But the beauty is that behind the scenes, you see an aquarium. So this screen is a big screen and you can change the screen, the image, based on who is taking the scanning. So for the kids, they did a nice aquarium picture behind, but for adults, based on the adult's interest, you can easily customize and change the back screen. So, and before the kids going into the machine, the doctors or the nurses are explaining them, and as you can see on the down left picture, they're explaining to the kid how the process will be looking like. They put her toy in the machine. It's a small MRI machine, and they just make her understand the entire process, that it's not something to get scared. They show how the pet the pet looks like in the machine, so that the kid before going in the machine is ready for the process, and she's not anxious as much as before. So this was a huge success, and they really sold a lot of products with very good customer feedbacks. You may think, okay, of course, in the retail sector, maybe these things are working more. How about the banks? Is it possible in the financial sector? Yes, it is possible, because we're working with, again, human beings. So Bank of America, this time in 2000, early 2000, wanted to bring out a new product that will inspire people to open bank accounts, especially those who are on very tight incomes, who are a little bit unbanked, underserved. These people, because since they don't have big incomes, they were not feeling safe, and they couldn't, and they were feeling a bit ashamed that they couldn't save money for their future. They are working, but they're not making enough money, and they cannot save money. And what Bank of America did during that time, they give this task to IDEO. IDEO is a design company. And IDEO conducted observations in different cities across America to observe this target group, those who are on tight budgets, very, very limited income, how they behave, what do they do if they cannot save money, but in their financial actions, what do they do? And they spoke to families and people in order to understand their spending behavior. And they observed the mothers in certain neighborhoods. And the mothers, what they have seen is that the mothers were mostly making the financial household decisions. And some had a practice of rounding up the number in their salaries to make the addition, the calculation easier. This was, it was very inspiring for IDEO. And they took this idea and they built a solution. The solution was keep the change. Here, they could enroll in a savings account, open an account immediately, where they would round up purchases made with debit cards. The roundups will be transferred to a savings account automatically, and the good side, bank will also, in order to motivate people to enroll to this savings account, the bank will match the money transferred to the savings account up to a certain amount of dollars. What I mean, you can see on the picture, if you buy coffee, for example, it's $2.30. And with this rounding feature, you pay €3. You add 70 cents, and the 70 cents difference goes to your savings account. Well, it's not a big amount, and even the small changes can help you save money. This was the idea behind. So, and when you round this 70 cents, the bank, in the campaigning period, they also added 70 cents for the, or maybe a little bit less, to the savings account as a bonus, as a welcoming gift to the customer. So in a year, in a week, as you can see, with these small rounding ups, even those people could save money, $5 per week, which could make almost $300 per year. So although you were feeling as someone who had a limited budget, you think that it's not easy for you to save, but even with small adjustment, you could really make savings. So the Keep the Change campaign still exists today, and it is still going perfectly. And during that time, when they launched the campaign, more than 12 million people were enrolled. It was 60% of all new customers. So they made a huge success in the financial sector. And this became an inspiration in many other countries as well later. So with different examples from different parts of the world and also sectors, what we see is, going back to the very early slide, which was bizarre at then, but maybe now make more sense to you about why we fall in love. As you can see, we fall in love for top three reasons, and they are in line with the steps of design thinking. So similarity, finding similarities, beliefs, understanding people's beliefs is the essence of our define phase. Spending time together, living near each other, which is the propinquity reason of falling in love, is our empathize phase, because we observe, we listen, we spend time together with our end users. And the outer physical appearance, which is the attraction part of the love, falling in love part, is our prototyping and testing. So we show them and we try to see how attracted they are. They can experience, have a look, and give us their feedbacks. So as you can see, it is when you do things right, when you use the relevant steps, it's very easy to make the customers fall in love with the products, with the services and the processes that you design. Well, if you need more information, here are some books that I might suggest, but of course there are so many good literature out there, books, articles, YouTube videos you can find. And one last thing I'd like to show you is a campaign which is very much inspired by design thinking. And this will give you a good idea about how people can think differently and how they can really change the world that they are living in. I'm sorry the video is in English with English subtitles. I couldn't find another version, but I hope you will enjoy it.
In Cambodia, half the population are severely anemic because their diet of fish and rice contains very little iron. Iron deficiency is the cause of many health problems and pregnancy complications, like premature births and miscarriages and even deaths. Iron pills are available but are far too expensive, so we needed to find a cost-effective solution. That's when we knew this had the power to change it all. We worked out that cooking with a piece of iron for 10 minutes could provide a family with up to 75% of their daily iron intake. The challenge was getting them to use it. They did, but just not for cooking. So we had to dig deeper if we wanted to help. And we found this, a cultural symbol of hope and good luck. The lucky iron fish. And the community has embraced it. Our team has been going out educating, promoting, and encouraging more families to use the iron fish. And the results have been life-changing. After only 9 months of regular medical trials and testing, we have seen a 50% drop in iron deficiencies. And
the business team, the names may be different, sorry, because everybody has a different organization, but people who are capable of listening to the voice of the customer, it will be mostly the business people and the marketing teams, I assume. If there's a customer experience team in the company, for sure that will be good too. I would suggest operations team. I assume if it's a product, it will impact. IT, which IT, I don't know. I mean, depends on IT development or infrastructure or security, but someone to represent IT. And maybe not all the time, but compliance and legal can have some representatives too from time to time. And especially at the beginning, when you are launching the projects, just to get their feedbacks, to let them be aware from the beginning, because sometimes we forget these rules while we are so much creative, but at the end, they are the ones who are giving you the green light, red light. So in order not to waste time, it's better to involve them from the beginning. I think that will be all. Yeah.
Отлично, спасибо большое, Сима. Следующий
Thank you
вопрос.
so much. The next question. How long does it take to train people for design thinking? So how long does it take for the people to accept and be ready to implement the process?
I think like the 2 days training, a full-time 2 days training will be good. Like I'm a well-structured workshops. Of course, face-to-face 2 days. If it's remote, it may be it's not easy to keep everyone in front of the screen for 2 full days. Maybe then enlarging it to 5 days a week, dividing the 2 days into in the morning sessions, afternoon sessions. 5 to 7 days will be good, but 2 to 3 days face-to-face training or 5 to 7 days of remote training could be relevant enough.
Спасибо. И следующий вопрос, он может быть
And
коррелирует.
another question resonates with the first question. From your experience, what is the best design thinking team?
I think there is no best design thinking team. So I'm sorry to answer this, but as I said, there is no one fits for all solution in any case, and design thinking is purely based on it. Depends on, I would suggest, think about what you want to produce. Is it a product for external customer? Is it a product just for internal? Are you just going to re-engineer a process? Then the customer representative can be contributing, but that person doesn't have to be in the project all the time. No matter what the project you are working it, it's always better to have cross-functional teams, either as permanent members or visiting members. So for the end users, always sales, marketing, IT people together, operations to include depends. And from time to time, compliance and legal, as I said. But for more like internal processes, it could be more the people, more from the IT and operations teams, legal, compliance, maybe more. And this time the customer voice teams like sales, business, marketing, CX, they can be visiting the project. So depends on what you are going to do, but always include everyone and have a sponsor for the project. I'm sure you have a sponsor, and get the sponsor's feedback and expectations from the very early phase. So especially in the problem phase, the pre-phase, just to make sure that all the team has the same understanding of the problem that the sponsor has in mind. Otherwise, you can design totally something different than what the sponsor would like or has in mind. So it's better to get everyone on the same page at the very beginning.
Отлично, спасибо большое, Сима. Ну, что ж,
Thank you so much, Sima. So we do not have any more questions. Thank you so much. And I hope that we will see each other again and maybe even many times. Thank you so much, Sima.
Thank you very much.
Let me summarize the presentation of Mrs. Sima, but my colleagues will also send you the link to our YouTube channel, where you can find the recordings of all our events. We will send you the playlist, the link to the playlist, all 4 recordings. So you will find the recordings there, and we'll be very happy if you could watch them as many times as you need to be able to use them in your work. So let's summarize. How to make your customers fall in love with your products. What we have heard today, thanks to very insightful and valuable content provided by Sima Unal. First, design thinking is a powerful tool to let PFIs make their clients fall in love with their products. And the reason for that is an authentic human stories approach. The traditional waterfall way has a lot more shortcomings than benefits due to modern reality. Today, the customer centrism is a key for successful operations. And we have learned the 5 steps of the design thinking process, starting with the problem. That process includes building empathy with customers, defining users with persona maps, generating ideas, creating a prototype and testing with users as many times as it helps to fit the needs. In other words, design thinking focuses on the customer's values, beliefs, and needs, and any PFI that can understand them in the best way will gain customers' love for a long time. So, dear colleagues, let's have a look if there are any more questions. You can see in the chat box that we shared the links to our playlist. And I wanted to say that our next event will be in September, because now it's a holiday time, but we will get back to you in the beginning of the autumn. And now, could you please fill the opinion survey to say whether you liked our event? And our colleagues will show you the poll.
Ну что ж, на этом мы готовы попрощаться.
So we say goodbye to you, dear participants. Please visit our YouTube channel, follow us in social networks to see when the next event is coming, and we'll be very happy to stay in touch with you. Thank you so much for your attention.